Hey, this is Poncho Sanchez, IRock Jazz. Well, for me, I'm the youngest of 11 kids. All my brothers and sisters are still alive today and doing well. So what happened for us is we were all born down in Laredo, Texas, and I moved to Los Angeles, California when I was about 4 years old. And my brothers and sisters caught the first wave of the mambo and cha-cha-cha music that came from Cuba, Puerto Rico, New York City to Los Angeles, California in the mid-50s. And they started learning to dance the mambo and cha-cha-cha. So my brothers and sisters bought the early Machito records, Tito Puente records, Tito Rodriguez, and Cal Jada records. And I was just a little boy growing up with that in my house every day. So those were my first influences, Machito, Tito Rodriguez, Tito Puente, Mongo Santa Maria, Cal Jada. That's how I started learning about this music, what we call Latin jazz nowadays. Like I said, I was born in Laredo, Texas, this side of the border. Although my mother and father were from Mexico, and we were all born in Laredo, Texas, which is on this side of the Rio Grande. And but you know, it was down south there in Texas, and they mostly spoke Spanish, of course, in Laredo, which they still do. When we moved to Los Angeles, California in 1954, I was 3.5 years old. That's where we got exposed to jazz and black gospel music and rhythm and blues, and then of course what they call salsa nowadays. In those days, that word hadn't been used yet. They called it música cubana, which is Cuban music, or música latina, which is Latin music, or they just called the music the mambo or the cha-cha-cha in those days. Now they call it salsa, and of course Afro-Cuban music and Latin jazz. But you know, it was rather difficult for me, not only dealing with African Americans trying to learn to play jazz and trying to accept a Mexican American like me that they couldn't believe that I knew about that music, and not only that, the Latino people like the Cubans and the Puerto Ricans. I used to go to a park and jam on Sundays, just a big park, and there was a group of Cuban guys playing and Puerto Rican guys playing up on a hill, and they sounded really good. And I wanted to sit in with them because they sounded good and they were jamming. And I tapped the guy on the shoulder, and of course I talked to him in Spanish. He was a Cuban guy, and I tapped him on the shoulder when he was playing. I said, "Hey man, can I sit in? Can I play?" And he told me, "Are you Cuban?" And he was playing, and I said, "No." He goes, "Are you Puerto Rican?" And I said, "No." He goes, "What are you?" And I said, "I'm a Mexican American, I'm a Chicano." And then he looked at me and goes, "Mexican Americans can't play congas." And he kept playing, you know. And I thought, wow, all right, you know. And that's Latino people were against me. And then what happened is he got up for a minute to go grab a beer or drink of water or something. As soon as he got up from the quinto, which is a small solo conga drum, I jumped on his spot and I started soloing. And then he stepped back and listened to me for a minute. And I played for about 5 or 10 minutes, you know. And after I finished playing, he goes, "Wow, man, you really sound good, man." And he told me, he goes, "Your father must be Cuban, right?" I go, "No, well, your mother has to be a Puerto Rican." I said, "No, they're from Mexico. I'm a Chicano," you know what I mean? He goes, "Wow, that's the first Chicano I ever heard play like that before." So even with my own people, I had, you know, problems getting in the door, you know what I'm saying? And even to take it a step further, the first time I ever went to New York City, which was about 25 years ago or so, with my band, we played at the Village Gate in New York. And that night we were there at the Village Gate. Tito Puente was sitting right in the front seat. Caco, the great timbal player, was there. The great Carlos Patata Valdez was sitting in the front. Manny Oquendo, the great timbal. Those are our heroes. Those were our heroes. And we thought they were just coming to, you know, check us out and be happy with us, you know what I mean? But they weren't there. They were there to check us out to see if we really could play. because we were Mexican Americans who came from Los Angeles to play at the Village Gate in New York City, and then they really didn't know they believed that we could do it or not. And they were there after the first set. We were hanging with them, man. And after that, got very close to Tito Puente and Patato, and now they're all gone, man. Those are my heroes, you know what I mean?